Hello, and welcome to an extremely special episode of Yeah, We Read It. I am one of your hosts, Meggie,
And I'm also one of your hosts, Laura.
and we have Lynn Painter on the podcast today. Hi, Lynn.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello. Thank you
Wow.
so much for having me.
We are, for lack of better words, obsessed with the books we've read of yours. We did your newest one, Fake Skating. We did Better Than the Movies. We did Nothing Like the Movies. And Maggie and I are so excited to have you here.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's very huge for us and also great for us as fellow Midwesterners
Yes.
because I was telling Laura this. I was like, the first question that I have to ask Lynn, what is your Scooter's coffee order?
Okay, Scooters is always for me just a mocha. Very, very boring.
Hey, I love it. It's classy. Not
Yeah,
boring,
we'll
classy.
go with that. Like, are you guys like me where you have your like if I'm going to Starbucks, it's one thing, like it's a coffee frappuccino. If I go to Scooters, it's a mocha. It's like depending where you go, your order changes.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's not a
absolutely.
consistency amongst all of the chains and shops, so it's like you have to find what's best, and then that's the thing you get. I totally
Mhm.
relate to
For
that.
sure.
Hey, what do you guys get at Scooters? Because they have all of those like crazy blended drinks and Lucky Charms things, and it's madness over there.
I know, it's so crazy. Anything pistachio that they have for seasonal,
Mm.
immediately. And
Ooh.
then they got rid of the egg and cheese biscuit sandwich, but I really liked that. I was really sad about that.
Oh.
And I'm from Ohio, and Scooters was not in Northeast Ohio. So Maggie was like, "Oh yeah, this is like it's in Iowa," and I was like, "Man, I'm jealous. This place sounds awesome." But
Yeah.
yeah, so this was my first venture into Scooters, but I was familiar with other things that were mentioned, like Hy-Vee and all of that.
No.
So
Yeah. That was the classic. So obviously you've been writing YA for a while,
Mhm.
and I was wondering what sort of got you into it because I know you do a lot of YA romance and sports
Mhm.
genres, and what kind of drew you to that specifically?
You know, it's funny. It's kind of a two-part answer. It
Mhm.
was so for me for years. Like, I mean, we're talking 10 plus years. I was trying to get published, and it's a game where you just basically are rejected all the time,
Mhm.
But I was always writing just like adult romance. That was all I was trying. And it wasn't until I read Looking for Alaska by John Green
Great
that
book.
I was like, something about this voice, like this space
Mhm.
feels comfortable or like something I could do or feel good. And so that's when I wrote my first YA. And it wasn't a rom com, it was like straight up contemporary. It was like my take on The Great Gatsby, but like a YA
Ooh.
version. And it didn't ever sell, but it got me an agent. And then my next attempt was Better Than the Movies. And
Oh,
everything
wow.
changed then. So
Oh my
it's like
gosh.
I didn't ever like necessarily have a goal like, oh, I want to write YA. And
Mhm.
then thank you, John Green, because I read that book and then I started writing it. And now it's like if I had to choose only one, like you have to write either YA adult or middle grade, it would totally be YA. That's where
Yeah.
my heart is. So and then sports, I mean, I have 3 sons and a husband who digest sports constantly. So
Mhm.
it's like it's always around. Usually like basketball and football and baseball are like my house's sports. But then when I wanted to write a hockey rom-com, I have cousins in Minnesota. And so I went and visited them for research. And then that became a whole other thing.
That's
So,
awesome. No, we love to hear that. I guess speaking of, Midwest, we can tell obviously that it really influences a lot of your work, Minnesota scooters, talking about all of it. So I guess with all of that, we really do want to know, how do your past experiences, influence the books you create, or even your present experiences, since you did some research for fake skating.
you know, historically, like I don't characterization, I never intend like I'll get that question a lot from YA readers. Like,
Mhm.
are there any characters like based off of like you or people in your life? And
Yeah.
I don't ever intentionally do that, like, oh, I want this character to be like me or something. But ultimately I always end up accidentally throwing things in there, little characteristic things where somebody will be like, where did you come up with that? And I'm like, oh, I actually do that myself all the time and didn't realize it. Like they accidentally get in there. um
Yeah.
But the Midwestern thing, honestly, when I wrote Better Than the Movies,
Mhm.
it's like, sometimes books really hinge on the setting, it's about place. And Better Than the Movies was not that kind of book. It was set a girl in high school, and it could have been anywhere USA. So then I
Mhm.
was like, there aren't many books set in Omaha. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just have it here. I mean, part of it was probably me lazy, not wanting to do research, where I'm like, I know everything about Omaha. Um, but I was shocked after it came out how many people in Nebraska and the Midwest, like when the place you live isn't represented very much, because why would it be? People are like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, it was so fun to see, like Ted and Wally's listed, or these places. So then I was kind of like, with every book, I'm like, if it can be set anywhere, why not set
Mhm.
it here? So that's kind of been my mindset. But then fake skating, when I went up to see my cousins in Minnesota, it was interesting because that book idea came as a very basic, almost like a marketing thing, where in my head I was like thinking about my next book, and I'm like, there's just not many hockey rom-coms in YA. Like there's a lot of
True.
spicy adult ones, but I'm like, there aren't that many in YA. And I'm like, maybe I'll write a hockey book. And that was like the basic idea. But then when I went to visit my cousins, um, and spent hours sitting in a high school hockey rink watching practice, which probably had the players like, what is with that woman up there? Like, somebody should call the authorities. Because watching us practice for like 5 hours. Um, but when I went out there, what I didn't expect is I just fell in love with like the suburb where my cousins live.
Yeah.
It's like, even though it's a suburb of the Twin Cities, so it's a big city, it's
Mhm.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, but it felt so not just small town, but like the sense of community. Like after
Mhm.
hockey games, instead of going to a cool bar in Minneapolis, all the parents go to the Croatian social hall in
Yeah.
South St. Paul, and like there's a chili cook-off, and they're all drinking beer, and it's like my nieces, it's like it felt like they had 15 uncles, because their dad's friends all knew them all so well, and like have known them their whole life, and I fell in love with this community.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then it kind of took over, where the book was more than a hockey rom-com. It was about finding your sense of place, especially when you grow up. I was a military kid, so you grow up and sometimes you don't have a sense of place,
Mhm.
or like a big family footprint. So
Mhm.
so that kind of shaped writing that completely.
I'd love to hear your background of research into it, because you would write these moments that really resonated with me, and I didn't even remember in high school the whole like big potlucks
Mm.
before the the game the next day.
Mhm.
And so I'd love to hear that like you were kind of following along with that and recreating that as it came out. I'm always wondering too, because it feels like it's such a specific time, and maybe it's because I always think of my high school experience, but you curate these playlists alongside the books that you write, and they feel very 2010s and it feels very nostalgic.
Yes.
And I wonder, do you curate the playlist as you write, or do you kind of let a soundtrack mold what will be the idea of your book?
Um, it's kind of like a mix of both. Like
Mhm.
it's really kind of weird, because I don't make playlists for my adult books,
Mhm.
but for YA I have to. And it all became like, I used to roll my eyes when I would hear authors talk about characters like they were real. Like authors would be like, well, I was writing this, but then my characters took me in a different direction. And I'm a hater, and I'd roll my eyes and be like, you're writing it, shut up. But
Yeah.
it's like when I wrote Better Than the Movies, it was very literal. Like Liz wanted to be a music supervisor as a
Mhm.
career, and she made playlists all the time. So it's like I made a playlist for Better Than the Movies intentionally, because it went along with the story. But now
Mhm.
it completely changed the way I write. So now it's like when I start drafting a book, I'll kind of make a playlist that's just vibes. Like I'll know like, oh, they
Mm.
hate each other at the
Okay.
beginning. So I'll, waste hours on Spotify finding the perfect songs that express like how annoying he is, or how arrogant this person, and I'll find all these songs. And then as I start writing the book and it gets more solidified, then it becomes more of a soundtrack in my mind, where
Mm.
I start to think of like during the scene, like in fake skating, there's a scene where spoiler, like somebody breaks up with somebody even though they don't want to. And there
Mhm.
was this one song that was so perfect for it that I think I listened to it on repeat for like 5 days in a row when I was drafting that scene. So it becomes super literal for me. where by the time the book comes out, like in my head, it almost feels like a movie soundtrack. Like, you couldn't mess with this. This is exactly how it goes. I kind of forget that it's just like my playlist and it's not canon, you know?
Yeah, and it feels like because 'cause you'll interject lyrics into it, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's a lot of the writing process is you can visualize a scene in your head, and lyrics fit perfectly with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I get a little scared. Like, I'm like, Lynn, you don't need to be heavy handed. You don't need to point at readers and be like, you need to be hearing this song by Hayden Henderson while this scene is happening. But in my controlling brain, I'm like, but I want them to be hearing this song when we read
Yeah. It feels like the teen experience, though, because
It
your life is a
does.
movie as a teenager, truly.
No, it also it does like give such a movie vibe. It starts to feel like it's like pacing the scenes when you're describing these songs and how they fit into everything. So I think that was such an like good stylized choice with
it.
everything.
Well, good.
Um
That makes me justify wasting hours on Spotify. Then I'm like,
yeah,
no, it's okay. They said it was all right, so I
yeah,
can
yeah.
just
Meggie and
spend
Laura are cool with it. So like let
hours.
that
If
guide you.
anything, we're endorsing you to spend more hours on the music catalog. We love
Yeah.
it.
You guys, and you know what's so funny is it's such a like fun thing for me. Like literally today, somebody sent me a reel that Hayden Henderson, he's a musician, and
Mhm.
like two of his songs were on the fake skating playlist. And somebody just sent me a reel today that he made where it's the song, like I think the song was Sweat, like in the locker room scene, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
is playing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he just made a reel and all it says on the front is who is Alec Barzewski and what happened in the locker room? Because people have like tagged him. And then it was funny because you look at the caption and he put like, apparently my song is in a smut book. And I'm like,
Oh my god, Lynn,
so,
that's so
That's
funny.
like today I was like,
so
oh
funny.
my gosh, a famous person knows my book. That's hilarious.
He's like, "Who the hell is Zeus?"
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. He's like, why do people keep tagging me and saying something happened in a locker room?
That's so funny. He's like, they did what in the locker room? Jeez.
I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna have to find out.
I love that. Another choice that we obviously noticed as we read both Fake Skating and Nothing Like the Movies was the use of the dual point of view, which we also really liked because it was fun to see the perspective from both characters. But we'd love to hear more about like what you enjoy stylistically about writing that way and how do you construct that story from both points of view.
You know what's funny is my first, like, Better Than the Movies and The Do-Over were single POV.
Hmm.
And then I started writing bonus chapters, just like my own like fan fiction, like like I'll just randomly be like, I should write Wes and Liz like going to this. Like I'll just randomly, like
Yeah.
write stuff. And the first time I wrote one, I think I just did like, oh, we'll do prom like from Wes's point of view. And I started writing it and I became obsessed with getting in Wes's head. And I feel like a part of it just comes from women writing men, right? Like the joy of being like, I am going to write him thinking what I want him to be thinking.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with it. And I don't know if I'll ever go back to single POV because I so love getting, and I love the fun of showing the contradiction of what's going on in his head, but then he
Mhm.
says something else and you're like, oh, like I just love playing with that.
That was a really fun twist in the one-off Wes's that you did that I
Yeah.
think Alex, when he goes to talk to her on the balcony, it's like a whole switch bait and switch where she's also trying to do like a fake dating situation with him. I thought that was so cute and funny. I loved that.
It's just so much fun to play with. And it's funny because I just saw like a TikTok today where somebody was saying, and they're so right
Mhm.
about like single POV, how it's so good for angst and yearning. Like if you read Allie Hazelwood's books, she's so good at
Mhm.
like painting like his expression and he's brooding because you're not getting in his head, how it really creates that. And I'm like, oh, but she's so good at that, but I'm not. I just want to dip into his brain and scream at you what he's thinking.
Speaking of big romantic gestures, one of the because obviously Laura and I read Fake Skating and we also
Mhm.
read Better Than the Movies. One of the scenes that we absolutely loved from Nothing Like the Movies was when Alec makes, or not Alex, I'm getting the books confused. When Wes makes the big grand gesture on the balcony and it goes horribly wrong. So, did you consider like any other famous grand gestures when writing How to Get Liz Back, or any rom com moments that you were like, yeah, that
Oh
rocks?
my gosh, I'm trying to think because yes, I did because honestly, nothing like the movies. Like, I always said I would never write a sequel because I hate
Yeah.
sequels. Like, I
Mhm.
usually don't even like. I've never seen Miss Congeniality 2 or Bridget Jones' Diary 2. Like, I'm like, if they end up happy at the end, why would you mess with that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then with Better Than the Movies, my publisher's like, "You sure?" And I was like, "No, I don't ever." And then they're like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." So but I struggled writing a sequel, and so I wrote three separate versions. Ultimately, by the time all was said and done,
Oh,
but
wow.
the idea for the first one was basically just like Wes trying to win Liz back, and it being very rom-commy, where he thinks he knows her. So he's got all of these grand gestures, and every one of them blows up in his face. So that balcony scene was on all of them. I think there was one where I did the
It's
pretty
really funny.
woman scene. Yeah. Um, where like the balcony, like he tries to climb up, like the ending of Pretty Woman. He tried to like recreate that. Um, with
Oh,
Helena
yeah.
Oh
as
my
like the
god.
driver down at the car. But that one didn't end up making it. I'm trying to think what else I had because that was absolutely the idea behind it is to have them all be like the balcony scene where it just goes
That's
terribly wrong for poor Wes.
so funny. No, Maggie
Yeah.
and I were dying laughing as we relived that moment on the podcast because we're like, this poor guy, like, really just.
Trying so hard, just swing and a miss, to use
Oh
a
my
baseball
god.
term.
I want to jump back into fake skating, and I think there's two characters that Maggie and I can agree that we canonically hate, which is both Danny's father and Benji. But we have been dying to know, why did Danny take Benji to the secret spot all those years ago?
Yes.
Or you can say we're not revealing the author's secret, but we were like, why was he allowed there? He sucks.
You
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's so funny how many times you like have backstory and things written, and then you start editing and taking things away,
Yeah.
and so things don't necessarily get completely explained. But
Mhm.
at that time, she wasn't talking to Alec anymore. She came
Yeah.
back with her mom. Benji seemed annoying like always, but he was being kind of nice to her. And it just sort of, those things happen when you're a teenager where you end up being like,
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. So it was the way it was originally intended to be written was just sort of one of those like they were hanging out,
for
walking
sure.
around, and she just sort of they ended up there like for a few minutes. It wasn't a big thing, but then I got so many like DMs from people who were like, "What
Oh, really?
went down with them?"
That's
And I'm like, "Oh no, no, nothing really."
Well, I
I'm
was
glad we're
wondering
not alone because Maggie and I were like, did something more happen? Was there anything else happening?
I was wondering since I assumed that it was just maybe her and Alec had tension, and then I was also wondering if her and Benji maybe had a fling at one point. But I love the villain being named Benji. I have to commend you on that. I have an ex named Benji.
Yeah,
So I don't need to drag
Maggie
him
had a
right
special
now.
relatability to fake skating because
But
of that.
I was like, finally, we're seeing the villain's name.
And what's so funny is I'm such a lazy namer. Like you'll hear authors all the time who have these like magical origin stories for names. Like, I have a jar full of names and I select them. Or, like especially like in romantasy, it's got all of this huge meaning. And I literally will be like, what's a name? Is that a hot name? Like, what's a bad guy's name? And honestly, it's like when I wrote this story, Danny's grandpa's house, I was picturing as my grandparents' house in South St. Paul.
Yeah.
Like I was picturing, they lived in a house in Bernard Street, and I was picturing it perfectly because growing up, my grandparents lived on the main level, and then there was an apartment upstairs that my aunt and uncle lived in. So I had a very like literal picture of like how it would work in that house. And I remember next door was just a dorky kid named Benji next door to my grandparents. And I literally, when I was writing, it wasn't even intentional, but I was just like Benji. And then later I was like, oh, I wonder what happened to little Benji.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully not as villainous as book Benji. I hope he has
Yeah.
a nice life.
Yes,
Um
he's
Speaking
learned.
of writing your own like fan fictions, would you ever like foray into a Benji redemption arc?
Oh my gosh. No. No, I couldn't.
Correct
I couldn't.
answer.
I love Alex too
Fair, fair.
much.
I'm like, I don't actually want
Yeah.
to root for him either, but I was like, you never know.
I mean,
There
it's always fun to do that to any character. To
Yeah.
be like, what if he's got a good
Yeah,
side?
but
But
what
I
if you
don't
don't know
think,
him like I know him, you know?
yeah, right. But I don't think I could do that with Benji.
Speaking of characters popping up in different books, Liz is Alec's cousin canonically in this book. A great nod to that. I loved that.
Mhm.
Are we gearing up for a Lynn Painter multiverse? Is there gonna be a
Okay, you know what's funny is I get myself into trouble because I'm just a nerd. And so I think it was the last round of edits. Like fake skating's already pretty much done. I'm just going through it one more time. And then when I went, it's like on page one, I think, that he mentions the song from the playlist. And then I was like, oh, and he gets it from his cousin. And in my brain, I'm like, his cousin is Liz. And I do this with characters all the time where I'm like, and Charlie is related to this person. You know, Charlie and Wes are cousins. And then later, I have to start to unravel, like try to figure out, like all of a sudden, if they're like, you know, maybe we should do a book about this side character you wrote about. And then I'm like, okay, but then who's related to who? And I have to figure it out. And so I need to stop tying everybody together. I'm really getting myself in trouble.
I think it's a fun little
It's
nod
fun.
to
If
the
you get
empire
a
you've
bulletin
built.
board and like a red piece of string, I think it could work.
Right. I'm
Mhm.
picturing Charlie, you know, from
Yeah.
Always Sunny. Me with the cigarette, like trying to figure out who's related to who.
Pointing at it with the red string.
Exactly. You're
Right,
like, and then this
exactly.
person, they know this person. They're not related, but they know each other. You know, it can get very, very leveled.
Yes.
So I had a question that will probably venture into a different personal question that I have, but there's been a rise, obviously, in like sports related romantic books. And I feel like hockey is very much at the forefront of it. I know that Icebreaker was super popular, and obviously, Heated Rival is on
Yeah.
HBO Max. With such a big pool, how do you manage to make like fake skating stand out, would you say?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, well that's okay because this ventures into my next one, which is like follow-up question as someone who is toying with the idea of like writing a YA romantic book.
Do it,
It's
do it.
easy to see like so many romantic books have been done, and you know, you Google and like you find the concept and it's already been done. How do you not get discouraged by that? Asking for myself, maybe.
You know what? It's probably because it's been so many years that I've been doing this
Mm,
that I've realized that I honestly think that you could say right now to 10 writers, write a young adult hockey rom com where they have to fake date. You could even make it that micro. And I feel like every one of them would feel completely different because of the character voice, the
Mhm.
characterization, the
mm,
traits you give them, you know, what battles they're dealing with, like with their family and in their head. And I feel like they all would feel different and banter and dialogue. So I feel like I don't really spend very much time thinking about that because I feel like it would drive me crazy. Like
okay.
sometimes, you know, something will come too easily where you'll think of like, what if it's a story about a cowboy and a gymnast? I'm just pulling weird stuff out.
No, of course I
And
love
then you'll
this.
be like, wait, that sounds, you know, if I get that buzz in my head where I'm like, that sounds really familiar, I might Google to make sure, like, is my brain queuing this up because it knows this or is it just really common? But if
Mhm.
it's not something that's crazy, you know, in your face where you feel like you're stealing somebody else's idea, I feel like you'll make it your own
Mhm.
because of the way
Hmm.
you write. Every writer has their own voice. Yeah.
That
So
is that is true too, because I feel like you are very specifically incredibly good at dialogue. You are
Mhm.
good at like having yearning almost jump off a page and having like flirting banter that feels so authentic to their voices. And
thank
it's
you.
really impressive. How do you like improvise what their dialogue might be when you're writing people like Alec and Danny, Wes and Liz, or how do you kind of get that voice?
You know, I feel like honestly part of it is my husband is the world's biggest smartass, and I feel like our like communication style is sarcastic banter.
Mm.
You know, just smartassery. But I don't know. I feel like it's just maybe it's because I grew up like with my mom, kind of like Liz, always watching rom-coms.
Oh.
But I feel like my brain just that's my favorite part. Like I could write, I mean, I my editors at times have been like, there needs to be more than just back and forth dialogue. Like there actually needs to be like emotions and thoughts because I could just write people talking all day long. It's my favorite.
Mhm.
So I feel
Wait,
like we all have
that's
those
yeah.
things. Like every
Yeah.
writer, you have those things that you have to work harder at, and other things that just feel a little more natural to you. And I
Mhm.
feel like dialogue and that kind of banter, like sarcastic flirting, is my favorite. Probably from watching so many rom coms that one I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, enemies to lovers is great.
Yeah, no, and speaking of enemies to lovers, Maggie and I say on the podcast a lot that that is one of our favorite romance just tropes. We like will never get sick of it. We loved
Mhm.
the light enemies to lovers with Danny and Alec in Fake Skating, but as a romance author, we want to know, is there any romance tropes that you're like ride or die for, or have any favorites?
Well, for sure fake dating, which is so ludicrous because in real life it doesn't happen. You're never like, you know
That's
what,
what makes it
because
so
reasons.
enticing though, is that it never happens.
Right, like because reasons we need to pretend to be in a relationship. Like it doesn't happen. But I just remember, you go back to like even watching like Pretty Woman and old rom coms. It just works. There's something about it that's fun. So fake dating, I always love. I swear, I think I've put a little dabble of fake dating in like every book I've ever written, where you're like, they have to go out of town this weekend. I guess they need to pretend to be like. There's no reason. Like I
Mhm.
literally got an editorial letter today for my next YA from my editor. Like I sent in my first draft and they get back to you like, here's all my ideas on what you sent. And it was kind of like, I don't know if we need the fake dating part of this. And my brain is like, what are you talking
You're
about?
like, it's absolutely necessary. What are you talking about?
And then it's like I read it again and I'm like, oh, she's got a point. There's really no feasible reason that these two would need to do this. But I'm like, but but they need to. And I always like friends to lovers. I always thought in my brain, I was like, oh, that's a boring trope. But then I keep writing stuff where I'm like, wait, is that kind of friends to lovers? Like I do love the why can't I think of the word? But like when you're the other person's wingman, like you're working
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
like that's always super fun and you start to be like, wait, do I, like I mean, I feel like they kind of all come from the same place. Like enemies to lovers, friends to
Sure.
lovers, fake dating. It's all fun because you're forcing something and they start to see each other in a different light. Like all of a sudden, like
Mhm.
enemies to lovers, where you're like, oh, I thought he was awful and he just did something really nice. Like, oh, he gave the drunk girl water instead of taking advantage of her. Is he actually an okay guy? Like it's
Yeah.
so fun to when they start to see each other in a different light.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's what
100%.
makes
I
romantic
agree.
tropes so
I feel like
beautiful.
when there's a barrier to dating and then overcoming it, it feels so earned.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
also, I mean, building up tension and yearning. We need to bring back yearning.
Yes. Your name's the best.
Exactly. No, and I think we also have to give a great nod to, like, we really were setting up for Wes in the first book to be like this nightmare bully character, and then you find out he's the nicest guy ever, and he's, oh, I'm drinking water at the party, and oh, hold your purse, and I have a spare clothes, and it was such a good reveal to lead into their fake dating. So we love that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because it's like sometimes, again, like I used to roll my eyes when authors would be like, well, the character took on a life of its own. And you're like, whatever, you did that. But like Wes originally in the first draft was going to be like the bad boy next door, like working on cars. And then I'm like, I don't know what happened to that. He definitely is not a bad boy?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Um, I guess too, I know that you have a new book coming out in May, I think, The First and Forever, which is also in the romance genre as well, which we love. Do you think that you are ever going to venture off from the romance genre? I know you mentioned earlier that you had started off writing contemporary.
um, I don't think I'll ever leave it behind. Like
It's the
sometimes
best.
I'll get hopped up on the idea of some project. Like I would love to write something like dark comedy, like or like a cozy but like Wes and Liz stumbling upon a body or something, like
Mhm.
or like vampires, but really sarcastic and funny. Like
Yeah,
I would love to
Lynn,
play
that'd be so
with,
much fun.
that would be
yeah, like
awesome.
mixing genres a little bit would be really fun. But I don't know. I love yearning and pining and happy endings so much that I don't know if I could write something that wasn't at least grounded a little bit in romance.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of just, I think just again, books and romance and genres in general, is there any books or even other types of media that you're currently consuming that you would just give a hard recommend to?
Okay, I'm so behind on my deadlines right now that I am like not allowed to look at anything. But
That's so fair.
I don't think it comes out until spring, but it's by Freya Call. What? She's my friend. What is her last name? Um
That's okay. Sometimes we blank on each other's name, me and
Yeah,
Laura too.
Ardently, hold on. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna make you wait because
that's
it's
totally
so good. It's
fine.
like I don't know if you guys ever saw hold on, now I can't do two things at once. Freya
If it's
Sampson,
romance, I'm so in. Love
okay, it's
romance.
Most Ardently Yours by Freya Sampson. And it's
Ooh.
like I don't know if you guys ever saw Kate and Leopold.
No, but I've heard of
I've
it.
heard good things
Wait,
about it,
guys,
yeah.
have I heard of it because you mentioned it in one of your books? Wait,
Oh, I
that's so
did. I
funny.
did. It was in
I
Better
was like
Things. But it's
I
like
was like, "Wait, I think I've just read about this book, and it was
That's
literally
so
you."
funny.
oh my god. But it's like Hugh Jackman and Meg Ryan, and it's like time travel, but it's like that meets um Pride and Prejudice. Like this girl's reading a book,
Ooh.
That's
and
one of
there's
my
a little
favorite books.
magical realism, and all of a sudden, like Fitzwilliam Darcy is like with her, and he's like fallen through like almost like a time portal, and he's dressed like he would back then, but in modern, and it's funny and cute, and I'm obsessed with it. But I need to see when it comes out because I don't know when it comes out. You guys, I shouldn't be asked questions. July 7th.
Okay, no, this is fun. I love hanging out.
No, we
Okay.
love the suspense. It was great. It was a great
That
build up.
is most ardently yours. Okay, we're going to remember that because I
Okay,
am
Yes.
a sucker for romance books. Kate
Yes.
Leopold, I actually put on my watch list because of you, so it's
okay, and
on
you know
there.
what is my favorite in there? Oh, and now I'm not going to be able to think of her name. Oh my gosh.
I like this
Just
game.
forget it. There's it was early in her career, I think. What is her name? She was in How to Get Away with Murder, the TV show.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
She's
Viola
amazing.
Davis?
Yes,
Yeah.
Viola Davis. She plays like a cop on horseback in New York City there,
Ooh.
and she like makes the time travel guy like pick up dog poop,
Mhm.
because you have to clean up after your dog, and he's
Yeah.
very like Regency Britain. Like, are you suggesting that I pick up the poop? And she's like, yes, pick up the poop, and it's just a really cute scene. But every time I see it, I'm like Viola Davis. She was even killing it way back then.
Oh my gosh, speaking of New York, I think I saw in a different interview that you had recently had, you're thinking about maybe toying with the idea of a New York City fall
Yeah,
movie?
the edit letter that I got today was for my New York book. It's like
Ah,
I don't know how much I can say about it right
That's
now, but
okay. I
essentially
mean,
fair.
it's like a Midwestern girl, like shockingly, from Nebraska.
What?
uh-oh, in New
Um
York
her
City?
Yeah,
Wait,
her family, there's kind of an inheritance thing where they have to it's like all of a sudden a girl from the Midwest
Mhm.
is inserted into Gossip Girl, New York City type of
That's
life
so
at like a
fun.
private school and fish out of water. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Well, I will
okay.
say, as a girl from Iowa who went to private school who now lives in New York City, I'm gonna pretend that that's me.
Yeah, it comes out next, I think September.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Awesome.
and it's New York in the fall. But I really have a lot of work to do on it right now since I just got the edit letter today. So now I'm like, now it's like homework.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait, and I mean that kind of covers the what's next for Lynn Painter question
Yeah, yeah,
that I was
that's
gonna
usually
wrap
how
up
we end it.
on.
We know what's next, and we frankly are very excited for that.
For sure. Lynn, are there like any parting thoughts that you want to leave us with, I guess, before we wrap the interview up?
Okay, you say that like I'm somebody who has any good thoughts to pass on whatsoever.
Well, you can also
Oh,
Obviously,
we're
plug
having a good
social
time.
medias if that's easier.
I'm sure people know where to find you at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, I'm
that's
on
too.
look at, and you know what's funny is here's how organized it. I'm on Instagram. I think it's Lynn Painter Books.
We'll find it. We'll put it in
I don't
the
remember
episode
my handle.
description, so you don't even have to worry about it.
Well, yeah, thank you so much again for joining us. And I guess that was Lynn Painter.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks. Yeah, thank
great.
you so much, Lynn. Thank you so much, listeners. And Maggie and I will be back with more books and interviews with people soon.